Welcome, 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 welcome to the rum.
Welcome to the
everybody.
rum.
Welcome to the rum. It is Bryan
And Constantine.
and
we are
one with the rum.
to the rum.
So, very special occasion. This is our inaugural podcast. So, want to walk you guys through what to expect. So, we're two rum lovers on different sides of the world. I live in LA.
I live in PG.
And each month we're going to be covering different topics, maybe distillery highlights, something else rum related, and we'll chat between the two of us, or we might even bring in a guest. We'll have to see. So the first and foremost, though, just make sure that you guys follow us on Spotify, Instagram. You can find us at @2_the_rum. The first one we're going to be posting here on Spotify. And I will figure out how to put it onto Apple Podcasts and Stitcher and other things I've never heard of until this morning.
Wherever you find your podcasts.
Well, I guess the first thing then is, if you are unfamiliar with us, I'm Bryan, and this is Constantine, as we've said. But who are we? So I am the rum champion.
Rum champion.
El campeón
What's going
de
on,
rum.
everybody?
What's going on, everybody? It is the rum champion. And I'm also the co-founder of the Rum Curious Club here in LA. And who are you, Constantine?
I am the rum runner-up, apparently, not the champion.
The self-proclaimed rum runner-up.
And I am just a rum fan, also founding member of the Rum Cartel in Singapore, ambassador for the Florida Rum Society, soon to be producer of rum at a distillery that we're building in Fiji. More to follow on that when we can.
Yes, Constantine, he is actually opening his own distillery, which is amazing. So throughout this podcast, you're going to hear about what's going on with the Rum Curious Club and the Rum Champion. And even the coolest thing, in my opinion, that we'll be following along on is Constantine's journey, finding the stills, getting them to Fiji, what kind of distillates they're going to use. Now you know a little bit about us. I guess first, really, how did we come to love rum? So Constantine, why don't you kick us off? How did you come to love rum, and how do you end up with 350 bottles, half of which you've never opened, by the way?
We're getting there. Baby steps. So how did I get to love rum? So I did, most of my career was in the Navy. I did about 27 years in the Navy. And they say join the Navy, see the world. But when you see the world in the Navy, what you really do is see the inside of bars all around the world. So that's where I spent a lot of my time. And of course, it starts off like most people with Bacardi and then Captain Morgan. And then you have Captain Morgan Private Reserve. And you think that's the end all be all of rum circa 2007-ish. And from there, like many of us, it started just getting a little bit more creative and exploring different types of rum. But where I really started my rum journey in earnest was in Singapore. And I met Peter Holland there on just a chance encounter. And I think most of you know who Peter Holland is, with the Floating Rum Shack and brand ambassador for Foursquare and Dorley's and others. From there, I met a gentleman named Frederick, who we'll talk about, I think, on the next episode, who founded the Rum Cartel, which brought together a lot of the rum aficionados in Singapore. And actually,
the Rum Cartel, sorry to jump in. The Rum Cartel is very different than the Mexican cartels. I want to make that abundantly clear.
And Singapore, it seems to me, is the center of gravity for the rum movement in Asia.
Mm-hmm.
From there, it has branched out. One of our favorite bartenders at 15 Stanford at Hotel Kempinski, Adrian.
Shout out Adrian.
Presented me my first rum coin, a coin from the Rum Circle, which was a pre-COVID grouping of bars across Asia, and it just was promoting rum. So it really started from there, and that's where it took off. It was in Singapore where I got the idea for the distillery. Had the chat with Pete Holland about that. He encouraged me to move forward with it, and here we are several years later.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And for me, once I had been able to legally drink, before that, because of course no one under the age of 21 in the United States ever drank rum and coke vis-a-vis Captain Morgan. Once I was of age, I really ended up going to a tiki bar called Trader Sam's. So it's Trader Sam's is a tiki bar in the courtyard of the Disneyland Hotel. And I went there. I was dating a girl at the time. It didn't work out because my girlfriend's sister at the time said, "Hey, we're going to go check out this bar." Okay. And I walk in, and it's your typical tiki bar where, you're sucked into the ambiance, and The drinks were fantastic. They were rum based. And so my love of rum really started there. Kind of dissipated over the years because, there's nothing more American and manly than drinking single malt scotch. It can't be blended. It can't be. So I went on a gin kick. I went on a scotch kick. And then COVID happened right as the end of the quote unquote lockdown. Well, actually, I don't know why it was quote unquote. It was the literal lockdown was ending. I decided to throw a tiki party in Marina del Rey, California, which is the greater LA area for those of you who might be unaware. And I've had maybe 15, 20 people show up. But leading up to the party, I really wanted to have the tiki drinks that I had at Trader Sam's and then subsequently at Tonga Hut. Shout out Tonga Hut, tiki teas, kind of wherever else. And the first thing I needed to do was figure out how to make these delicious drinks. So I went on YouTube, found this channel called Distinguished Spirits. And
we haven't talked about that?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so
my COVID thing was Distinguished Spirits.
Of course. I love the guy's voice, by the way.
Awesome.
A quick ADHD side note, but you're going to take your 2 ounces of orgeat, add that to the shaker.
Awesome.
Such an amazingly smooth voice, too. But anyways, listen to him talk about the Mai Tai, the 1934 Zombie, Navy Grog, etc. And every single time he'd reference this book called Smuggler's Cove. So I went, well, I need to keep watching what this guy's doing with tiki drinks because he breaks it down and gives a history of the cocktail, which is really interesting. And then I picked up a copy of Smuggler's Cove, consumed that book, and realized, oh my God, I know nothing about anything. But at least that gave me enough to be dangerous for my first tiki party. And then since then, I went from 0 bottles to 335-ish over the course of, 2 years-ish. So that's my journey with rum. And then, of course, the Rum Champion happened later, and we'll get into that at a much later time. But for now, that's how I've come to love rum.
I didn't mention the tiki part of mine. I think that's a lot of rum lovers go through the tiki lane, at least a little bit. And for me, that started when I was probably 7 or 8 years old. My dad had some of the old original Trader Vic's books.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember reading those and was fascinated by it. Mm-hmm. And that kind of came back around during the same period. And I took that detour down Tiki Lane as well. I wouldn't say detour. I mean, I'm still very much into the Tiki cocktails, the Tiki movement, all the bars. So that's really an important part of, I think, the rum world today.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, especially here in the U.S. I mean, I can't speak to anywhere else. I mean, Singapore has its own amazingness where they just get to drink incredibly delicious rums right from the bat. But I think for a lot of Americans, you're dealing with an uphill battle of Captain and Coke or whatever. But a lot of people start in the tiki realm. And then I'm sure it was the same thing with you as I started to deconstruct these cocktails and say, well, what's the difference between an Agricole View from Martinique and a Demerara rum?
Exactly.
What is Demerara? What is going on
here? Why
here?
does this work and this doesn't in this particular cocktail?
Exactly. And then really just expanding well far beyond that. And so, that's the rum love. So really, I guess we should talk about how you and I met, because you and I had connected over Instagram.
Right.
As mentioned, guys, I have the Rum Champion page. I started it to just spread my love of rum. Got connected with you, and you had sent me a message maybe like a week or two leading up to going.
I was going to Singapore for something completely not rum related, just other business, and Frederick of the Rum Cartel in Singapore, the Honcho Frederick told me.
Sorry, I had to do it.
Frederick said, hey, the Rum Champion is coming when you're going to be here. And so I messaged you, and then we decided we would link up while I was there. And, it was interesting because that was, again, where my rum journey the got supercharged was there in Singapore when I met Pete Holland and Frederick, and then we linked up there.
Yeah,
and which insanity ensued immediately.
Man, my first recollection of meeting Constantine. So we were at the 15 Stamford at the Capitol Kempinski in Singapore, and I was sponsored to come out by the Rum Cartel. It was an awesome time. Part of the sponsorship was me promoting certain brands, doing a bunch of tasting. So I was tasting Malt Grain and Cane, a 22-year aged Bajan rum, Barbados, from Mount Gay, which I thought was really unique because I hadn't really seen too many Mount Gay casks in the hands of independent bottlers. I had just finished the tasting when you had rolled up. You brought me a 375 milliliter of Bounty, and I went, oh, cool. Hey, Constantine, shut up and drink this. It tastes like blue cheese. And so I was looking at the bottle while he was tasting this really delicious rum. Shout out to Marcus. You can find him at the Hamden Pirate on Instagram. But yeah, that's how you and I first kind of kicked off. Taste this blue cheese. And I remember you gave me the weirdest look. And to this day, I still have this bottle at my bar, rum library, as I'm calling it now.
It's a library.
It's a library. I got library cards.
Excuse me, dear. I'm going to the
I'm
I'll
going
be
to
in the
the
library.
I'll be in the
Don't
library
bother me.
studying. So, I mean, that was pretty much us getting synced up. And then
Yeah.
every single night in Singapore, Constantine and I would go out. So we would hang out at 15 Stanford, talk with Adrian. Again, love you, Adrian. You're an awesome dude.
Awesome,
We went a couple times to Origin at the Shangri-La. Adam,
Yeah,
oh
Adam.
man.
The rum tender on Instagram.
Oh my God, yeah, Rum Tender, you got to follow him. And I really just stand in awe of just how much he really knows about rum
Unbelievable.
and everything that he's done there. And then, of course, we frequented 28 Hong Kong Street. Hi, Lynn. Hope
Hi,
you're doing
Lynn.
well.
My home bar in Singapore, I call it.
Yeah.
I always feel so at home there. You feel at home at every bar in Singapore, but that was a particularly special place there. So
Definitely.
great place, 28.
Definitely. And for those of you who have never been to Singapore, or never even thought about going to Singapore, if you're a rum lover,
Go.
it's an absolute must. I
Yeah.
mean, you will try rums that you've never seen anywhere else unless you're frequenting Europe. And on top of that, you will be in the hands of amazingly passionate bartenders who do this day in, day out.
Yeah.
Honestly, one of the best cocktails I had was the one at After the Beep at the Origin bar.
Yeah, yeah.
And Adam,
man.
I mean, Adam's whole concept about
Yeah.
you order your drink and then they bring you this little tiny notebook with a pen.
Mhm.
And Adam handed it to me and I went, "What's this for?" And he said, "Oh, well, what do you do after the beep? Because that's what the drink's called." And I went, "You leave a message."
Yep.
It's like, exactly. So then it was cool to just scroll through this notebook and see
Yeah.
people from all over the world. So just as far as the unique experience, and the cocktail, of course, was out of this world good. He actually made a Fijian Sazerac, which, by the
Right.
way, let's cheers to this because I've been
Cheers.
staring at this. Speaking of Fiji rum, Constantine and I are drinking Black Adder 8-year-old rum, and this is just lovely stuff
Fantastic.
here. But a Fijian rum in a Sazerac, guys, again, shout out Adam, you're a genius.
Brilliant. Those distinctive notes, the earthiness of the Fijian rums.
Mm-hmm.
So beautiful. You know, they actually have a connection there. And the reason why they had that Fiji rum at Shangri-La, Shangri-La's first hotel under the Shangri-La name was in Fiji. And so they sourced this rum to make that special bottling for Origin Bar.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so good. Another really good cocktail. I know that you had a taste of it. So Adrian at 15 Stanford, he made me a Pandan Old Fashioned.
Yeah.
And before going to
man.
Singapore, I was like, what the hell is a Pandan? What
Pandan,
is
yeah.
that? And then, of course, you ask somebody that, and it's kind of like a leaf. It's
leaf.
kind of like a root. I don't know. Just drink this.
Yeah.
And it was delicious. But again, the
Amazing.
creativity, the ingenuity, and then he used, I think, Mount Gay XO for that one, which delightful stuff. So that's how we synced up. And I'm pretty sure I've told you this. If I haven't, Constantine really took my Singapore trip to new heights because I was hoping to hang out a bit more with Fred, but he was tied up with other affairs and whatnot. So it was basically Constantine and I going out and being enthusiastically drinking. I mean, we went to
Enthusiastically.
we went to the Ald
Alliance.
Ald Alliance. I
Yeah.
almost want to say Ald Dubliner, but no.
That looks
Ald
like a
Alliance.
rum library. The way the
Oh my
the
God.
walls are just bottles.
Yeah,
and
and you
bottles
see
and
you see
bottles.
bottles you've never seen before, and then the oldest bottle they had was like a bottle of whatever whiskey from 1703
Yeah.
or something.
Unbelievable.
Oh yeah, you can have a taste for 8,000 Sing.
No, thanks.
No, thank you. So, anyways, but we actually frequented too Maison du Whiskey, which is an amazing. So it's for those of you unaware, because I'd never even realized this concept existed, was having a bottle shop where you could actually do tastings of certain bottles that were already open,
Yeah.
which I think is a genius idea. That the fact that no one's doing here in the U.S. blows my mind.
Yeah, they
Because
should.
if you want to spend $500, $600, $700 or whatever, hell, even if you want to spend $100, $150, you probably want to try that rum or
Right.
whatever liquid. And so that was really cool. So the first post that Constantine and I ever had was we had a decent amount to drink.
And we had
The
been
second time we went to
Yeah.
Maison, and that was after we'd started at 15 Stanford. We went to Origin,
right?
we went to 28 Hong Kong, and then by that point, it's you want to go to Maison du Whiskey and have some black top last consignment.
Because we'd been going back and forth
Yeah,
on whether
on
we were
whether
going
we
to shell out
wanted
the
to.
dough for the
Yeah.
last consignment. Because
Yeah.
we had the black tot, but the
Mhm.
last consignment, neither one of us had ever had. And we were deciding, do we want to put the money out, have it, and risk it not being as good as we think it's going to be?
Yeah, and honestly, Adam was the one who said, "Yeah, get out of here, go try it."
Just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went, okay.
Yep.
And then for those of you guys
And it was
who-
worth it, by the way.
100%. Yeah, I mean, because really, for those of you who are unaware, Black Tot is a Caribbean blender where they're blending multiple different islands together in the style that the British Royal Navy used to for their daily rum rations. And then when that stopped, it was called Black Tot Day because the rum ration was called a tot. The last consignment was the liquid that had sat in, I think, clay pots for 30, 40 years that just sat there because the British didn't do anything with this rum until, I can't remember the gentleman's name. He ended up buying the liquid, and the last consignment, it's $1,200 per bottle. So neither Constantine nor I want to shell out $1,200 for the last consignment. Understanding, though, that it is a piece of history. So it was really great to taste that. So much so that we decided to do a tasting review of it. And we were being very, very goofy with nya.
Inspired by, what was the scene in Mary Poppins, right? With,
yes.
Tuppence.
Oh, yeah. Tuppence. And then you stumbled, and then it turned into like movie references from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Ever hear the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Oh, silliness, man. But it was a great experience to taste that rum and just to think of the history of that.
Yeah. And then on top of that, in the midst of us being goofy and just having a really good time, I mean, even the guys behind the bar were giggling. They're probably laughing at us.
Yes.
Definitely not with us. But, you know, at that point, Constantine and I just really started talking of, hey, having a podcast where we were able to just share our passion for rum, potentially bring people on to share that passion with us, have like mailbags and things like that. So this is really the inaugural episode of kind of a taste of what to expect. Would certainly love any and all feedback from you guys of what you would like to tune in and hear about. And so for the mailbag, you can reach out to me at team@therumchampion.com. We'll get our own email address here shortly. Also, you could send us a message via Instagram. That is, again, @2_the_rum. And so we'll make sure we'll compile those. We'll probably do those mailbag episodes once in a while, or we might answer them ad hoc.
Ad hoc.
Ad hoc.
Ad hoc.
Yeah, what did you think I said?
Ad hoc.
Ad hoc.
Where is hoc?
Hoc. Well, we have a hoc in the back. I don't know if hawks sound like that, but for all intents and purposes, I don't know if they screech like that. But I'm not a bird guy, so I'm a rum guy.
Rum guy. Talking about rum journeys during COVID, which we'll talk about in detail later.
Yeah,
I had been talking a little bit with Maggie, who's now at Mount Gay, Maggie Campbell, and she had encouraged back then. She's like, "You should start a rum podcast." And it's one of those things that I sort of put aside. I actually bought a microphone. Like so many things we do, I'm gonna get into cycling.
Get all the equipment.
Yeah, and then you never do it. But here we are now, so I'm glad that this happened. It's Singapore again is just so fortuitous in my running journey. Never would have done this had we not had that chance encounter there.
When I would have never been there, had Fred. Shout out Fred.
Shout out Fred.
We're gonna shout out Fred probably multiple times in perpetuity.
Yeah.
But I would have never gone unless he had reached out and said, "Hey, do you want to come to Singapore and have some amazing rum?" Yeah.
Right.
Okay, twist my arm.
Wait, and another thing too is normally if you said that to most people, hey, you want to go to Singapore and have some rum, it just doesn't seem to. It's not that big in most people's minds in the rum world. But when we get there, it's unbelievable.
Oh my God,
the rum knowledge and rum that's available in Singapore.
Yeah, because no matter where you are, rum is really fragmented as far as distribution goes. So there's things in Europe that we can't get here in the States. So the Compagnie de Indy, I'm probably butchering the independent bottler, but
I have no idea how to say that.
But if you know, please correct me. And then for in the UK, I have a few friends that they can't get any Nason.
Yeah.
And in the UK, they don't get the Hamilton stuff.
Right.
And then there's it's
so
just
many
this
rum
mishmash.
deserts out there.
But what's interesting is that Singapore seems to be able to get some of the best of both.
Yep.
And even they're still limited, but it is still a fascinating, and it is a mecca. So if you are a rum lover, cannot emphasize enough to go to Singapore. And hey, like just from firsthand experience, staying at the Capital Kempinski is amazing. I know you've had a few different spots to stay too.
Yeah, that hotel though.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, that about wraps us up, guys. So again, shoot those messages in. Make sure to follow us. Next month, we're actually going to be hearing about the rise of the Rum Club.
Rise of the Rum Club.
And so basically, we're going to have a three-pronged approach to where Constantine and I will be talking about the rum clubs that we've either started or been a part of, founding member. So I'll be talking about the rise of the Rum Curious Club, and Constantine, and hopefully we can get Fred onto the podcast. And they'll talk about the Rum Cartel, which is an awesome rum club.
Unbelievable.
That is in Singapore. Yeah. And then we'll actually have Trader Jay on from Florida Rum Society. You were going to do the bit again, but so Constantine's been here in LA on and off for a couple of days, and I love that he's an ambassador of the Florida Rum Society, and I'm like, oh, I'm talking to Jay quite a bit because we have a couple of cool things that we're working on doing together.
Who's Jay?
And each time, yeah, Constantine goes, "Who's Jay?" I'm like, Jay Coco Rulio.
No, in my defense, the problem is that the rum champion has not been referring to Jay by his true title, which is Trader
Don't
Jay.
call me the rum champion. You can call me Bryan. And sorry, okay, Trader Jay.
Trader Jay.
Yes.
And you can refer to me as Excellency.
If I have to, I'm going to do the French, excellence. So that's what to expect next time, guys. But really, anything else we want to wrap up with?
No, I say thanks for joining us. And, rum really is taking off. And we're doing this podcast here a little bit, I must say, inspired by the great work that has been done by Will Hookinga and John Gulla over at the Rumcast. So thanks,
Indeed.
guys, for all the work you've done in just raising the awareness of rum. And I think you've probably gotten, more people into rum than we can even, understand because you've just had that reach. So thanks, guys, for paving the way. And we're really happy about the journey that we're going on.
Indeed. And look forward to going on it with you guys. So we'll see you in about a month.
Yep. Cheers.
Cheers.